5-year-old Layla Lester loves to play princesses.
No, wait. Talk to Cinderella.
In fact, nothing delights her more. So imagine the joy when Layla, who is autistic, saw one of her favorite characters come to life.
I just heard Layla run away from me screaming, Cinderella, Cinderella.
As if she'd spotted Cinderella.
She definitely believed it was Cinderella.
Layla's mom, Jessica, says the woman her daughter now believes to be Cinderella is actually a heavy equipment operator from Western New York named Olivia Spark. Layla came to this conclusion after spotting Olivia here at Akron Falls Park on her wedding day. Layla made a beeline.
I'm like, Layla, don't bother them. Like, they're in the middle of a photo shoot. Like, please.
You're used to chasing Layla around, apologizing for her.
Absolutely. And that meant a lot that I didn't need to apologize for.
Olivia not only welcomed Layla, she played along.
I was more than happy to be Cinderella for that little girl.
We're gonna go to the ball now.
She talked to Layla for quite a while before finally telling her she had to get back to the ball.
Oh, thank you.
But that's not the end of this fairy tale. Since their chance meeting, Cinderella has stayed in touch with her little Princess Charming, making Layla the happiest royal subject in the kingdom.
Hello. Hi, Cinderella. Hi. Come inside.
Olivia came over on this day in her wedding dress and at our request, but they see each other all the time now.
Come in, come in, come in.
It's an instant bond. They love each other. It's cute.
I'm so glad you're here.
Jessica says normally Layla won't even talk to strangers,
Where's your slippers?
My slippers, I took them off.
but she has clearly made an exception for Cinderella, who, as it turns out, also has a little bit of fairy godmother in her. Olivia and her family have started a GoFundMe to send Layla to meet more princesses at Disney World. It is such a kind gesture.
Cinderella.
Layla now isn't the only one who sees Cinderella here.
Sweetie.
You believe in her.
Yeah, I do. She's the epitome of a true princess. She's kind, she's sweet. She went out of her way to make Layla's day special, and who would do that other than a princess?
I guess they don't all wear glass slippers.
Bye, guys.
Steve Hartman, on the road in Akron, New York.
Bye. See you all soon.
Between classes, they schemed and conspired. For weeks, the football players here at Olivet Middle School in Olivet, Michigan, secretly planned their remarkable play.
Did anybody go, this is a crazy idea?
No, everyone was in on it.
But like the coaches didn't know anything about it. So we were like going behind their back.
I've just never heard of a team coming up with a plan to not score.
It's just like to make someone's day, make someone's week, just make them happy.
The play, which was 2 plays actually, happened at a home game earlier this month. The first part of their plan was to try to get as close to the goal line as possible without scoring, even if it meant taking a dive on the 1-yard line, which it did. The crowd was not happy. Quarterback Parker Smith.
But us kids knew, hey, we got this. This is our time. This is Keith's time.
Keith Orr is the little kid in the brown jacket.
Hug.
He's learning disabled, struggles with boundaries, but in the sweetest possible way.
Hug.
Because of his special nature, it's no surprise that Keith embraces his fellow football players.
Hug, Gabe.
What is surprising is how they have embraced him.
Hello.
We thought it'd be cool to do something for him.
Because we really wanted to prove that he was part of our team and he meant a lot to us. Nothing can really explain getting a touchdown when you've never had one before.
Which brings us to part 2 of their play. If you didn't see Keith, it's because they were so protective of him. But he was in the middle of that rush.
And when you crossed the goal line, what was that like?
Awesome.
It was like, did he just score a touchdown?
Get your camera out.
I'm like, I can't.
Keith's parents, Carrie and Jim, almost missed the moment, but they got the significance.
Somebody's always going to have his back from now until the day he graduates.
She's right. When the football team decides you're cool, pretty much everyone follows suit. Today, Keith is a new kid, although by no means was he the only one who was profoundly changed.
What was it like for you?
It was like once I saw him go in, I was smiling about here.
Wide receiver Justice Miller.
Like nothing could wipe that smile off my face.
Why did it affect you so much?
Because he's never been cool or popular, and he went from being like pretty much a nobody to making everyone's day.
Justice admits the play wasn't his idea.
I would have not really thought about that.
He says it never crossed his mind to give Keith any glory.
Well, I kind of went from being somebody like mostly cared about myself and my friends to caring about everyone and trying to make everyone's day and everyone's life.
Which may just make that touchdown the most successful football play of all time. Steve Hartman, On the Road, in Olivet, Michigan.
Red.
Miami preschoolers Gia Sarnicola and Zuri Copeland say they're not best friends.
I know.
They say they're closer than that. Closer than mere sisters even.
Hold on, I'm gonna wash the paintbrush.
In fact, Gia and Zuri truly believe they're twins.
Oh, yeah.
Ashley and Valencia are their moms.
They will tell you that they are twins, and they have a long list of reasons why to back it up.
To them, what makes a twin?
Similarities. Similarities.
Look, come here.
For example, the girls say they're both 4, their birthdays are practically the same day, and of course the obvious physical similarities.
So what am I looking at here?
The same height.
Oh, because you're the same height.
Clearly twins, which is why they also insist on matching outfits whenever possible. So far, Ashley and Valencia have indulged them, but they also recognize there is some bitter to this sweet.
You know, you're happy for, for a few seconds, and then you become sad because they have to grow up. And then society takes over.
Indeed, society has already tried to take over.
Last month, Zuri and Gia were at a birthday party when an older kid told them they couldn't be twins because they don't have the same skin color. Gia broke down, but through her tears, she got out this rebuttal. She said, "You don't know what you're talking about. We're twins because we share the same soul."
I just get chill bumps.
Soul?
I was just like thrown by just that word.
Yeah.
Obviously, what Gia was trying to say is that at our core, we are one. And as we look back on this year, with all its division and racial strife, it's important to remember that while all this was going on, so was this.
We have a lot to learn,
Right.
and we can learn from children.
In fact, the moms say they already have.
For sure.
Yeah.
We've never talked so much on the phone.
Yeah.
And that's what the twins want for all of us, to push back against the cynics,
Some girls said we're not twins, and we are twins.
and to stop it with this discrimination business once and for all.
And it makes her sad.
That way, they say, we can move on to the more important things in life.
You know what we're gonna get today?
What?
We're gonna get ice cream!
Steve Hartman,
And you don't.
Oh.
on the road, without ice cream, in Miami. For barbecue lovers, Brad's Barbecue in Oxford, Alabama is heaven on earth. But 80-year-old Eleanor Baker says her visit here earlier this month was especially divine.
I think it was a God thing. I think God sent me there.
You think we needed the example?
Yes. That people care about other people and how important it is.
Eleanor is a widow. She lives with her dog, Rufus. And although she has a big family, they mostly live out of town. So Eleanor was alone the night she went to Brad's Barbecue. Security footage shows her entering, there in the purple. And at about that same time, these 3 young men arrived. They say they were just having a good old time.
We was all just sitting there just talking.
When Jamario Howard noticed Eleanor.
An older woman sitting by herself.
Jamario says he hates seeing people eat alone.
And I seen that.
When most of us see someone eating alone, we feel that way. But our sympathy never solves anything, and Jamario really wanted to fix this. So he got up from his table and sat at hers.
He just came up and he said, "I saw you sitting over here alone," and he said, "Do you mind having some company?"
And she said, "Go right ahead." And then I introduced myself, and she introduced herself, and it's kind of how it all got started.
They all ended up having dinner together.
And it was just a really nice, pleasant evening.
What those 20-somethings did that night speaks volumes about their character. But they say it wasn't entirely altruistic. They enjoyed her company as much as she enjoyed theirs.
Because when we left there, that's all we talked about.
When you make that kind of connection with somebody, it's hard to let it go. Like, I already feel like we're her grandkids.
So you got room for these guys in your life?
Of course. I'm so glad y'all could make it.
They have all vowed to make room for one another. And certainly, if Eleanor's right, that God played any role in this, it may be to remind us of the joy that awaits just outside the bubbles we live in.
I used to say when I was younger, and I still say today, like, I'm gonna change the world somehow. And I don't know how, because I'm not rich, I'm not famous, and I'm not very smart either, so I can't be the president. But we can show the world that it's all right to be kind, and then before long, maybe the world will be a much better place.
Amen. Steve Hartman, on the road, in Oxford, Alabama. Who could blame Dalen McLee for hating the police? He was falsely accused of pointing a gun at an officer and spent a year in jail before a jury finally acquitted him. Not to mention the countless traffic stops.
What happens? Oh, typical running is you just pulling out from your house and you get pulled. No traffic violations.
How does it make you feel about police in general?
Definitely a lot of animosity, as in, you know, if I seen them, I wanted to go the other way.
And that was the bitterness he brought to this street corner in Uniontown, Pennsylvania last month. Dalen says he rushed here after hearing a huge crash.
There was just a lot of screaming, a lot of chaos. Oh man, I get chills when I think of it.
It was a bad traffic accident involving a police car. Officer trapped inside, gas tank leaking, flames spreading toward the cabin. Another officer who responded to the crash tried to rescue his colleague, but couldn't get the door open. And that's when a lone bystander stepped toward the burning wreckage.
That bystander? Mr. Dalen McLee.
I don't know how I got that door open, and I grabbed him out.
All of a sudden, the door just gets ripped open.
Jay Hanley is the officer Dalen rescued.
It's amazing when there's true love in people and they can get you out of something like that, no matter who you are or where you've come from. There should be more people like that.
And certainly, if there were more people like that,
look better,
there'd be more moments like this.
Finally get to see you, man. I appreciate it. Good, man.
God bless you
so much, man. Thank you.
Last week, Dalen came over to check on Officer Hanley and meet his very thankful wife.
Yeah, she's been dying for a hug.
So much. He's a good man, I could tell.
That's the other thing they're grateful for. Despite all his run-ins with the law, Dalen still believes there are a lot of good cops worth keeping.
No, we're waiting for you to get back out there.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
No justice!
In times of rage, we often paint groups with a broad brush. But Dalen says at some point you have to go back and fill in the fine lines between good and bad. Because in that subtlety lies our humanity.
I want people to start to look at everybody as Americans and not, you know, he's white, he's black, he's Asian, we're people. And when we start realizing that, things should get better.
In a small way, I think they just did.
And hopefully the world follows suit.
I hope so, man.
Steve Hartman, on the road.
God was with us, bro.
In Uniontown, Pennsylvania. Every week, he set himself up for disappointment. Every week, 14-year-old Jamarian Stiles came to this community center in Boca Raton, Florida, hoping to play basketball with the other kids. And every week, he was rejected.
They'll start picking teams, and I would be the only one left out. And then they'll just tell me, just go home and stuff. You can break someone's heart like that.
As we first reported last year, the problem was obvious to everyone but Jamarian. He lost his hands and most of his arms as an infant due to a rare bacterial infection. But he insisted that was no reason to give up his hoop dreams.
What about soccer? Have you heard of that sport?
Yeah, you would think that I would be good at soccer. I'm really not. I'm horrible.
Which is why, first day of 8th grade here at Eagles Landing Middle School, Jamarian took his case to basketball coach Darian Williams. Said he wanted to be on the team.
I said, all great, well, just make sure you try out.
But you say, okay, great, but what are you really thinking?
This man has no arms.
Yeah.
How is he going to play basketball? But man, he told me, Mr. Williams, I've never been on a team before. Even if I don't play, I just want to be on the team. And how could I say no to that?
And that's how the Eagles got their first armless basketball player. Jamarian, number 2 there, quickly earned a reputation as the hardest worker on the squad.
He was usually the first one in the gym, usually the last one to leave.
Still, he sat on the bench most of the season.
Try one more.
Until one day, the coach put him in the game with about 6 minutes left. And when he eventually got the ball on the far side of the court, everyone yelled, "Shoot it!" So he did, and sank a three-pointer. And if you didn't quite see that, don't worry, because shortly after, he got the ball again, this time on the near side, for another three-pointer at the buzzer. Jamarian Styles, the kid no one would pick, was now everyone's hero. Since that story first aired, Jamarian went on to play freshman basketball, still number 2 there, and has every intention of making varsity one day. But here's the best part. After hitting those threes, Jamarian can now play all he wants at the community center. He's picked all the time. Really, the only thing he won't play is the victim.
If I could wave a magic wand right now and give you your arms back, would you want them?
I don't need them.
You don't need them?
No.
Who needs hands when you've got this kind of touch? Steve Hartman, on the road in Boca Raton, Florida. Here at the Ohio Air National Guard Base near Toledo.
This is the 180th Fighter Wing.
Lieutenant Colonel Frank Daly still can't believe the honor recently bestowed upon him.
It's incredible being recognized in such a manner.
It happened at a Cracker Barrel, of all places. As the security camera shows, Lieutenant Colonel Daly entered the restaurant on February 7th for an early lunch. At about the same time, 8-year-old Miles Eckert came in with his family. Miles, in the green hoodie, was very excited. He just found a $20 bill in the parking lot.
Just sitting there?
Yeah.
Did you start thinking of what you could spend it on?
I kind of wanted to get a video game, but then I decided not to.
He changed his mind when he saw that guy in uniform.
Because he was a soldier, and soldiers remind me of my dad.
And so, with his dad in mind, Miles wrapped the 20 in a note that read, "Dear soldier, my dad was a soldier. He's in heaven now. I found this $20 in the parking lot when we got here. We like to pay it forward in my family. It's your lucky day. Thank you for your service. Signed, Miles Eckert, a Gold Star kid." Army Sergeant Andy Eckert was killed in Iraq just 5 weeks after Miles was born. All the kid has ever had are pictures and dog tags,
This is his wedding ring.
other people's memories, and his own imagination.
I imagined him as a really nice person and somebody that would be really fun.
The dad he imagines must also love a good story. Because after lunch that day, Miles asked his mom, Tiffany, to make one more stop.
Excellent. He wanted to go see his dad, and he wanted to go by himself that day.
She took this picture from the car. Follow the footsteps and you'll see Miles standing there behind the flag, presumably telling his dad all about it. And whether heaven heard him or not, his good deed continues to impress here on earth.
You've read it more than once?
I look at it every day.
Kid gave you a bigger gift than $20.
A lifetime direction, for sure.
Lieutenant Colonel Daly says he's already given away the 20 and plans to do much more. He also hopes that little green post-it will inspire other people across the country to give as sincerely and dutifully as this father and son. Steve Hartman, on the road in Toledo, Ohio. You can see why someone might hate being a school bus driver. The early hours, when the weather sours, the abundance of responsibility combined with the absence of eyes in the back of your head.
Y'all have a good day.
Nevertheless, as we first reported last May, Curtis Jenkins loves delivering these little ones to Lake Highlands Elementary in Dallas, Texas.
Yes.
Emily Grunninger is the principal.
He goes way beyond the outlined responsibilities and duties of a bus driver. I mean, that bus is like a family.
These are my children. These are my community. I love them all.
To establish community,
what's your job, man?
He starts by giving everyone responsibility.
This is one of the police officers.
It's an elaborate flowchart.
She's the administrative assistant to the president.
Administrative assistant to the president.
Yeah.
Everyone working together to build a yellow bus utopia.
And we're gonna care about each other and we're gonna love everybody, right?
I put time, effort, love, care, understanding each and every one of those kids.
Omar.
To show his love and understanding,
Hey, Chief.
Curtis gives presents throughout the year.
You say you like baseball.
Each gift personally selected with that child in mind. He gave this girl a t-shirt
Her first book
with a picture from a book she made.
I'm hoping this t-shirt inspire her to keep on writing books.
Over the years, he has bought these kids bikes, backpacks, handed out cards on birthdays, and even turkeys at Thanksgiving. He has spent thousands out of his own pocket. And yet, if you ask the kids what they like most about Curtis, the gifts don't even come up.
He helps anyone in need.
Ethan Engel is a 6th grader.
It means a lot to you.
Yeah.
He says the bus ride is often the best part of his day.
My mom got divorced when I was only 4.
See you tomorrow.
He's the father that I always wanted. In some ways, I wish my dad could have been like that.
We make the mistake sometimes of thinking certain jobs are more important than others.
I know.
But Curtis Jenkins made his job important, and in doing so, even created his own salary.
That's the paycheck right there. If I can get that, you can keep the money.
He sought no reward, but after our story first aired, the kindness came back to him nonetheless. When an anonymous viewer reached out to School Superintendent Jeannie Stone with a little thank you gift for Curtis.
You're gonna be driving this brand new car!
In addition to the car, she also gave him a promotion. Curtis now teaches others how to have better student relationships. For this old bus driver, 2019 sure proved to be quite a ride. Steve Hartman, on the road in Dallas. 28-year-old Robert Borba is one of the last of a kind. A real, honest-to-goodness, cow-roping cowboy.
Hash out.
Robert works at a ranch outside Eagle Point, Oregon. But we didn't come here to see his prowess in the cow corrals. We came here because of what he did recently amongst the cart corrals of this Walmart parking lot.
It happened so fast.
A few months ago, Robert says he moseyed over to the Walmart for some dog food. And on the way out, he heard a woman screaming.
Stop him, he stole my bike, And I kind of look around, and then all of a sudden this guy goes whizzing by me on a bicycle.
As the security cameras show, there was no way to catch him on foot. So the cowboy did what cowboys do. He saddled up to save the day, armed with little more than a lasso.
A couple swings, and then I threw it at him, just like I would steer.
He had to be blown away. Like, what is going on?
He's like, what are you doing, man? You got a badge? And I'm like, no, I ain't got a badge,
A lot of people were incredulous.
911, what's the address of the emergency?
We got a guy just stole a bike here at Walmart. I got him roped and tied to the tree.
What?
I got him roped from a horse. He's tied to a tree.
The cavalry arrived moments later, led by Eagle Point police officer Chris Adams.
I looked up, and from the horse, there was a rope connected to the ankle of a gentleman on the ground holding onto a tree.
So it's real?
It was real.
In fact, here's a picture. On the left, you can see the suspect on the ground, roped and tied like a steer headed for the pen. John Wayne couldn't have done it any better.
I'd take him by my side any day.
I told the cop, I said, man, you guys ought to pick up a rope and throw that gun away. You might have better luck with it. He started laughing.
What made you decide to take action in the first place?
I don't know. I just figured it was the right thing to do, If it was my wife or my little girl, I would hope somebody would help her if I wasn't around.
Heroes, like cowboys, are getting harder to find, especially modest ones like Robert, who want absolutely nothing in return. When it was over, police say all he asked for was his rope back, coiled it up, tipped his hat, and then rode off into the yellow logo sunset. Steve Hartman, on the road in Eagle Point, Oregon. You're about to see a ringer, not the throw, but the man who made it.
Did you see that?
This unassuming senior citizen is actually a carnival huckster's worst nightmare.
I'm going to play with this one right here.
The problem is that 64-year-old Peter Dracos, a car salesman from Detroit, is good. Too good. So good, in fact, that here at the Cedar Point Amusement Park in Sandusky, Ohio, and at many other midways across the country, management has put limits on the number of prizes any one person can win.
I don't want to say it's all because of me, but it is all because of me.
Still, Peter takes him to the cleaners every time. On this day, in just the first few minutes, he'd already amassed a kennel's worth of dogs.
This is a talent he seems to have been born with. He started playing these games at the age of 9 and won enough stuffed animals that first year to give one to every single kid in his school, about 200.
Peter spent the next half-century refining that gift.
So we'll go here.
Incorporating the fields of geometry, physics, and ultimately, engineering.
And we can go about 6 high.
Today, he is arguably the best in the world at carnival games. And although this is about as much as they'll let him win now, before they limited the prizes, he would almost disappear in his winnings.
Yeah.
These shots are from a weekend at Circus in Las Vegas.
We couldn't even sleep in the rooms because you couldn't walk around the animals. It was wall-to-wall animals.
Which brings us to the downside of winning so many stuffed toys. You win so many stuffed toys.
What do you do with all these animals?
I give them away, every one of them.
Conservatively, Peter says over the years he has donated about 250,000 toys to more than 50 different charities, which in my book makes Peter Dracos a big winner, win or lose. Steve Hartman, on the road in Sandusky, Ohio. Of all the great kids at American Heritage High School in Plantation, Florida, the one student who stands above the others is the one who stands below them. 17-year-old senior Adam Reed is just 4'5". He's small because his body can't process growth hormone.
Why are you walking so fast?
But in spite of that, or maybe because of that, Adam has taken on a most unlikely role here. Football running back.
It's crazy, but it's true.
What made you think you could do it?
Nothing ever told me I couldn't.
Adam weighs in at about 100 pounds, with the helmet. Most of the other guys are at least 2 times that size, and yet each and every one of them looks up to Adam.
He blows away your initial expectations.
Works harder than a lot of people.
That's what everybody's saying.
You ever heard about the little dog with the big dog heart?
Yeah.
Like a little chihuahua?
Yeah.
That's how he is. He doesn't care who's bigger than him and still do it.
Adam works out every day like he's getting ready for the Pro Bowl, even though when he joined varsity, he knew he might never get in a single game. He's 4th string, but completely unfazed by it.
Just care for what you do and love what you do, and the outcome will be remarkable.
Which leads us to remarkable. Last week, with 20 seconds to go in the game and Heritage well ahead, Coach Mike Rumpf gave the nod to number 2, Adam Reed. Coach told Adam to take a dive before he got tackled, and Adam completely ignored him.
And he'll get to the second level. He'll get out to the 40-yard line.
Well, I think his idea changed when the ball got in his hand, where he's trying to run through tackles and get to the end zone.
Coach Rumpf says he wasn't surprised. Here it is again. As you can see, Adam picked up 5 yards on the play. Not quite the touchdown he was hoping for, but still everything he dreamed of.
I don't feel like I'm out of the ordinary. I just feel like part of the team. And that's how everyone should feel.
Who needs altitude when you've got his kind of attitude? How do kids behave when no grown-ups are around? Danette Mabes of South Brunswick, New Jersey says you never really know.
Because you're not watching him at that moment and at that time.
She had always just assumed her son was good.
Right.
Until recently, when 13-year-old Gavin Mabes got caught on tape showing his true character.
Oh my God!
Gavin and some middle school friends had just arrived at a skate park. The park was empty except for little Carter Brunel, who was here with his mother celebrating his 5th birthday. Carter is autistic. Big groups of older kids can make him nervous, so his mom Kristen was fully prepared to get him out of there. She just wasn't prepared for what happened next.
I don't know, they've really just shocked me. It was unlike any experience I think I've ever had.
You know how middle school kids sometimes operate like they're in a pack? Well, that's pretty much what happened here. Gavin led the way and the others followed. The only surprise was that Gavin didn't start trouble. He started a friendship.
This kid's already better than me.
Gavin's just going around with him and making him feel special. And the rest of his friends kind of followed suit and then started singing happy birthday to him.
Happy birthday!
That really blew me away. Because you just want to see the kindness in the world. And I wanted Carter to have a good birthday.
It was such a great birthday and such a kind deed. Even the local police department responded.
And we're going to throw you guys a pizza party next week over at school.
But here's the best part. Since their first meeting, Gavin and the middle schoolers have continued to go out of their way to play with Carter.
How you doing?
He was just so happy and he made us all happy.
So fun to be around.
Yeah.
He's rad.
Yeah.
And as for the moms,
You're awesome.
for them, this was a moment of parenting utopia, where the only thing better than seeing your kid treated kindly is knowing that your kid is treating others kindly, even when you're not watching.
That was so cool.
I was just so proud of him.
You want to race?
He's good.
You did it right.
Thank you.
Steve Hartman, on the road, in South Brunswick, New Jersey. When the lunch bell rings at Boca High in Boca Raton, Florida, 3,400 kids spill into the courtyard and split into their social groups. But not everyone gets included. Here at Boca High and at schools across the country, someone always sits alone.
It's not a good feeling, like you're by yourself, and that's something I don't want anybody to go through.
Dennis Esteman is a Haitian immigrant. When he came here in first grade, he says he felt isolated, especially at lunch. Now he's a senior. He's popular, but he has not forgotten that first grade feeling.
To me, it's like if we don't try and go make that change, who's gonna do it?
So with some friends, Dennis started a club called We Dine Together.
We dine. Together. We dine. Together. We dine. Together.
Their mission is to go into the courtyard at lunchtime to make sure no one is starving for company.
Dennis.
I'm new here.
You're new here? When did you first come here?
For new kids especially, the club is a godsend.
This is Gabriel.
Gabe, how you doing?
Since it started last fall,
He's Brazilian.
hundreds of friendships have formed. Some very unlikely.
You're probably meeting kids you never would meet on the football team.
Ever.
Gene Max Maridew actually quit the football team, gave up all the perks that come with it, just so he could spend more time with this club.
I don't mind not getting a football scholarship. This is what I really want to do.
Just imagine how different your teenage years would have been.
What's your name?
If the coolest kids in school all of a sudden decided you mattered.
We get to know each other better.
It obviously takes a lot of empathy to devote your lunch period to this.
Yes.
Either that or firsthand experience.
I went from coming from a school that I always had friends to coming to where I had nobody, so.
Club member Allie Seeley transferred 2 years ago. She says with no one to sit next to, lunch can be the most excruciating part of the day.
I just think it's really unfair. It's honestly an issue. Meeting someone who actually cares and listens to what you have to say really makes a difference. And that could happen at lunch. That could happen at our club. It's going to make a difference.
And not just here at Boca High.
Yeah, I'll be around tomorrow if you want to eat lunch together or something.
Dennis and his team are now trying to open chapters of We Dine Together at schools across the country. And maybe, when they're done showing kids how to make outsiders feel accepted, they can teach us adults, too. Steve Hartman, on the road, in Boca Raton, Florida. In the world of minor league baseball, where most young fans want nothing more than to meet a real player, this kid, 10-year-old Vincent Steele, stands alone.
What's up, man?
Vincent idolizes umpires.
It's something that we're not really used to, you know, so every fan we can get is a plus.
You know, last night, there was a time somebody said, put the kid in.
Vincent is such a fan of umpires. Every game, he becomes one. He stands in the front row here at the Carolina Mudcats Stadium near Raleigh, copying their calls and mimicking their moves. He gets so into character, it's hard not to play along. For example, on this day, the manager even came over to him to report a lineup change.
0.
Initially, we thought maybe it was like a little bit of a phase type of thing.
These are his parents.
It's a 2-year phase at this point.
I don't know.
And they say it's not just on game days. It's virtually every day. At home, he stands in front of the TV and does the same routine. He sleeps next to baseballs autographed by umpires. He even visited an umpire school where he learned the proper way to call a strike, which apparently isn't to say strike.
But umpires say, hoit.
Why do they say hoint?
That's what they all do.
What is out?
Out.
Okay. Ball is?
Ball.
Strike is?
I think he wanted to throw me out of this interview.
Wait, what's the deal?
He's a great kid, which may be part of the reason he's attracted to the profession.
It's leadership, rule following, fairness.
All those qualities are kind of who he is.
Obviously, Vincent would like to grow up to be an umpire someday. But even if he doesn't, hopefully he will retain the values cherished by referees of all stripes. And hopefully he will keep his room just as clean as his imaginary home plate. Steve Hartman, on the road, near Raleigh, North Carolina. At St. Francis High School in La Cañada, California, there's something to be said about math teacher Jim O'Connor.
Substitute back for y.
The question is, what is that something?
Truncate or round it.
When you think of him, does the word love come to mind?
Obviously not.
He's very,
For whatever reason, none of these kids would tell me what they really think of him.
Oh, what's the word?
Yeah, none of the boys have come in here and said, oh God, we have hated him, at times. Nobody said that. I wonder why.
he's going to be seeing this, right?
Oh, yeah, that's why.
Truth is, Mr. O'Connor can be a bit of a drudge.
You don't know what you're doing.
But the 70-year-old Vietnam vet says he's not here to entertain his students.
It drives me crazy when people say school should be fun. I mean, it's nice if it could be, but you can't make school fun. E to the KT times E to the C.
And for years,
okay,
the kids thought that's all there was to him. Until last November, when senior Pat McGoldrick learned they didn't know the half of him.
Pat was in charge of a student blood drive and had just come here to Children's Hospital Los Angeles for a meeting. He says it was weird. Whenever he told someone he went to St. Francis High School, they all said, "Oh, you must know Jim O'Connor. Isn't he wonderful?" Wonderful?
What? Like, it was disbelief, really. It's almost like kind of finding this alter ego that he has.
Inside the blood donor center, Pat found a plaque listing all the top blood donors at the hospital, including the record holder, Jim O'Connor. Then he learned something even more unbelievable, that whenever Mr. O'Connor isn't torturing kids with calculus, he's on a whole nother tangent, cuddling sick babies.
Come on, you can talk to me.
3 days a week for the past 20 years, Jim has volunteered here, stepping in when parents can't to hold, feed, and comfort their children.
Solo.
Nurse Erin Schmidt says he's invaluable.
They tend to calm for him. They tend to relax with him. They fall asleep with him.
I just like them and relate to them somehow. Is that a smile?
Jim's never been married. He has no kids of his own.
Sure.
But he has fallen hard for these babies.
I don't want to see him alone. You can't do that.
You're not a tough guy at all.
I know, but don't tell my students. If you do the calculation.
Sometimes you think you know someone, but you don't have the slightest. Sometimes you think you're learning calculus, but the real lesson is life.
I've always respected him, but now it's in even a different degree. Really, is to the point where I try to emulate him. He's the epitome of a man of service.
What you doing? Steve Hartman, on the road in Los Angeles. Generally speaking, bars are not bastions of grace and kindness. But here at Jimmy's in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina, owner Jimmy Galeese believes there's a lot more to serving customers than a good pour. As we first reported a few months ago, he went way above and beyond for one patron, a total stranger who lost her wallet here last month with her wedding ring inside.
And she was frantic, really upset about it, so it just became my mission.
His mission to find her ring began with a thorough screening of the security footage. He had to watch 3 hours before finally finding her wallet on a bench outside the bar, the one at the far left, with the shady character approaching. Eventually, Jimmy figured out who that was and got him to confess to taking the cash and dumping the wallet in this ocean channel. It was long gone.
But you still won't let this go.
After I invested all that time, I'm going to find the ring. So I hired divers to come out the next day.
You hired divers?
Yeah, divers.
Divers who scoured the seabed and eventually surfaced with a soggy wallet and an irreplaceable treasure.
Jimmy went so far beyond what most of us would do for a stranger. And yet, even after solving the mystery, he still felt the need to do more. Not for the woman who lost the wallet, but for the thief who took it.
He was living in the woods, and this was when it was 30 degrees outside. And he hadn't eaten in 2 days. I could tell he wasn't a criminal. He's just somebody needed a little help.
17-year-old Rivers Prather was estranged from his mother. He'd been trying to make it on his own, but was homeless the day he stumbled into Jimmy's life.
I couldn't have been luckier. Most other people would have just, gave the footage to police, and he chose to help me. He's made me part of his family.
Literally part of his family. Rivers moved into Jimmy's house with his fiancée and kids. For work, he helps out around the bar, where he recently got caught on camera again. Yeah, he thought Jimmy would appreciate him relocating a baby raccoon from the garbage, unaware of just how unappreciative the mother raccoon would be. Fortunately, he wasn't hurt. And the good news is, he's at least trying to return the favor.
I'd do anything for him.
When that wallet got stolen by a homeless kid, Jimmy Galeese could have called on police, courts, or social services. But instead, he called on the best problem solver of all, the compassion within. Steve Hartman, on the road, in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. 78-year-old Tana Herndon of Bethany, Oklahoma, was vulnerable in every way.
Oh, my.
Her husband of 60 years had died just 2 weeks earlier. Her eyes so clouded with grief, she never saw it coming.
I really didn't know anything was going wrong until I was halfway in the car.
An elderly woman visits her husband's grave only to be mugged.
The mugger got away with her purse and $700, but not for long. Police caught him, and the news put his mugshot on TV.
So first time you see that picture, do you recognize who that guy is?
Yeah, in detail.
You had no doubt?
Yeah.
That was your dad?
15-year-old Christian Lunsford says his parents divorced when he was 2, and his dad has been mostly absent ever since. Last time he heard from him was a few weeks ago. His dad gave him $250 for a band trip Christian really wants to go on. But that's been the extent of his parenting recently. In fact, over the years, Christian says his dad has been in and out of jail more than half a dozen times.
There's times that you just feel really low, is that going to be me? Am I going to end up like that?
This apple wants nothing to do with the tree. Which is why, after Christian heard about his dad's latest crime, he reached out to the victim and asked to meet her in this church parking lot.
You think, what's going on here?
He says he just had to tell her.
I'm sorry about what happened.
Hey.
It needed to be done. She needed an apology from somebody. If I didn't apologize, who would?
I thought that was so precious. Any 15-year-old boy who has that much conscience is extraordinary.
And Christian was just getting started.
He gave me $250 for my band trip, but I'm not sure if it was yours or however he got it, but I'd feel bad if I didn't give it to you.
Never mind that it wasn't his crime. He paid the debt.
I accept this. I accepted the money back, and it was mine to do with what I wanted.
Which brings us to the best part of this story.
I want you to take your band trip.
She gave it all back to him.
Are you sure?
Really?
For his band trip.
It was a joy to do that.
Thank you.
Yes.
In the end, no money changed hands in that church parking lot, but they each got something tremendously valuable from the other.
I feel more like my life still has a purpose.
You're not who your parents are. I mean, even if they do raise you, you can become whoever you want to be.
No victims here. Steve Hartman, on the road in Oklahoma City. 45-year-old Richard Rinaldi is looking for someone. Two someones, actually. two total strangers who were meant to be together.
This is Dominic, right?
If only for a moment.
Okay, so you guys are gonna be a couple. They're not exactly sure what they've just signed up for. Actually. And people are a little nervous at first. Okay. I just need you a little closer, like, okay, good.
Richard is a New York photographer working on a series of portraits.
Okay, good.
For each shot, he grabs strangers off the street, like Jenny Wood, an airline employee from Virginia, and Dominic Tucker, a college student from Brooklyn, and poses them like adoring family.
Beautiful. 1, 2, and 3.
Richard calls the project Touching Strangers. He started shooting it 6 years ago and now has hundreds of portraits of these unlikely intimates. Some of the photos you'd never know they'd never met, while others capture quite well the inherent awkwardness of cuddling some random dude.
Hey, nice meeting you.
Even when the subjects seem eager, their body language often concedes a certain hesitance, at least at first. 10 minutes later, though, it's like Thanksgiving at Aunt Margaret's. And that's the really weird thing.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, Richard puts the people in these poses, but the sentiment that seems to shine through is real. At least, so say the subjects.
Okay.
It was sort of awkward, but then sort of not.
You guys did so good.
We are probably missing so much about the people all around us.
This is Reiko.
At first, Brian Sneeden, a poetry teacher, saw no rhyme or reason for posing with 95-year-old retired fashion designer Reiko Ehrman.
Can you just come in like a little more? Yeah, okay.
But eventually, he too felt a change.
I felt like I cared for her.
Cared for her?
Yeah, I felt like it brought down a lot of barriers.
Pretty much everyone.
It was a good feeling.
Shared that same sentiment.
It was nice to feel that comfort.
Everyone seems to have come away with kind of a good feeling. It's kind of lovely. It's lovely.
Most photographers capture life as it is. But in these strangers, Richard Rinaldi has captured something much more ethereal and elusive. He shows us humanity as it could be, as most of us wish it would be, and as it was, at least for this one fleeting moment in time. Steve Hartman, On the Road, in New York. A lot of grandparents complain that they don't see their grandkids enough. But Jimmy White of Decatur, Texas, doesn't have that problem. For one, his granddaughter lives right next door. But more importantly, he has created the ultimate grandchild enticement.
You ready to go play?
He thought of it the day he found out his daughter was pregnant with Sophia.
Did you decide right then what kind of grandpa you wanted to be?
Anytime she wants something, I'm going to try to give it to her.
The spoiling kind of grandpa.
Yeah, that's what grandkids are for. You spoil them. As soon as I found out I was going to be a grandpa, that's when I started.
Jimmy is a jack of all trades. He can build pretty much anything. So not long after that first ultrasound, he began constructing 6 flags over Sophia. Today, Sophia's own personal roller coaster circles around her own personal carnival swing.
Round and round circle.
And her own personal Ferris wheel. Everything is built from scrap parts.
Put the seatbelt on.
But he says it's all safe and sturdy enough for an adult to ride. Even the roller coaster, which is grandpa-powered, gravity-fed, and very much Sophia approved.
Bye-bye. Bye.
How often does she come here?
Probably every day.
Every day?
Yeah.
So this is working.
Oh, it's working.
As Sophia gets older, Jimmy plans to add more attractions. Go-karts will be next. All in an attempt to recreate the bond Jimmy says he had with his own grandfather.
That's what I'm trying to do with my granddaughter. Because after I pass away or gone, I want her to look back all the good times that we had.
I don't think there's any danger of her forgetting you.
No, I hope not. Yeah.
Of course, no matter how many rides he fabricates, eventually, Sophia will outgrow this place.
Here you go.
And when she keeps coming back anyway, maybe then Jimmy will realize the real draw here was never this amusement park. It was the loving grandpa.
Ready to go round and round?
Who cared enough to build it.
Round and round.
Steve Hartman, On the Road, in Decatur, Texas.
Get a piece of him.
As a state champion wrestler, Merrick Bush has very few real competitors. But the sophomore from Central Valley Academy near Utica, New York does have at least one rival, a junior from Indian River named Logan Patterson. Merrick met him on the mat earlier this month.
I practiced hard that entire week, and I wanted to beat him.
Terry Kavanaugh was the referee.
I've been in sports a long time, and I've never seen anything like it.
As expected, it was a great match. Until, with just about 30 seconds left, Logan twisted his elbow.
Oh my God!
Up to that point, Merrick had been losing. But Logan's arm was now so badly injured, there was almost no way Merrick couldn't win. So he told his coach, "I got this," and went back in to do what he says he had to do.
That's Merrick in the blue. Again, all he had to do was stand up and pin his hobbled opponent. But instead, Merrick did nothing. He just told Logan he was sorry about his arm and surrendered. Logan couldn't believe it.
He just sat there. He didn't move. I think it was goodness out of his heart. He's a great person. I know it makes me look kind of like a weakling, but
no,
that's all right.
No, it doesn't.
No, he's no weakling at all. I mean, state championships come and go, but that, you can't take that away from a kid.
The crowd watched, on their feet and through blurry eyes, as Merrick lost the tournament but won the admiration of everyone in the gym. Most especially,
proud. Yeah.
His dad.
Yep.
Bob.
I'm very proud. It's not about winning all the time. It's about doing what's right. And he did.
More importantly, Merrick thought doing the right thing would make him look like a weakling. But he did it anyway. Now that's a powerful kid. Steve Hartman, on the road, near Utica, New York. Troy and Katie Hudson of Denver, Colorado say their wedding was going just as they planned. Until the reception, when a member of the wedding party stole the show.
So it wasn't something that we were necessarily prepared emotionally to hear.
He's just like, I'm doing what I want to do, here we go, and he's passionate.
He's also 9.
I wasn't planning on making a speech for her, Katie, but I did it, I let it out, and I can't pause it.
In a minute, what Katie's little brother had to say. But first, what led him to this moment?
She's just the best sister I can ask for. No one can compare. You try one of these.
Gus is actually Katie's half-brother. They're separated by nearly 2 decades, yet close as conjoined. Which is why, when Katie got engaged, Gus says his feelings got complicated.
I was worried that she would not spend as much time with me as she used to. So it was really stressful in that way because I didn't want to lose her.
Fortunately, Gus says there's just something about a wedding ceremony.
It's just kind of like magic. And most of my worries about them just kind of went away.
Which brings us back to the reception.
And I am so happy that you guys got married today. And I know I might seem a little sad up here, but these are tears of joy. Katie, I love you so much, and I am so happy you gave me a brother-in-law.
As the holidays approach and far-off relatives begin to trickle in, Gus says his story should be a reminder to you to never let the word extended cloud the word family.
Don't let that separate you, because you deep down love them and they deep down love you.
Toast-worthy advice.
Oh my God!
Steve Hartman, CBS News, on the road. At one point, number 60, Jason Brown, was one of the best centers in the NFL. At one point, he had a 5-year, $37 million contract with the St. Louis Rams. And at one point, he decided it was all meaningless and just walked away from football.
My agent, he told me, he said, you're making the biggest mistake of your life. And I looked right back at him. I said, no, I am not. No, I am not.
So what could possibly trump the NFL? You wouldn't believe. Jason Brown quit football to be a plain old farmer. Even though he'd never farmed a day in his life,
How did you learn even to do what you're doing?
Get on the internet. You watch YouTube videos.
So you learned how to farm from YouTube?
Yeah.
You can still plant your crops.
Thanks to YouTube and some good advice from other farmers here in Lewisburg, North Carolina. This week, Jason finished harvesting his first 5-acre plot of sweet potatoes.
When you see them pop up out of the ground, man, it's the most beautiful thing that you could ever see.
He says he has never felt more successful.
Not in man's standards, but in God's eyes.
But God cares about the NFL. I see people praying to him on the field all the time.
Yeah, there's a lot of people praying out there. But when I think about a life of greatness, I think about a life of service.
Which leads us here.
Which leads us here, yes.
See, his plan for this farm, which he calls First Fruits Farm, is to donate the first fruits of every harvest to food pantries. Today, it's all 5 acres, 100,000 pounds of sweet potatoes.
It's unusual for a grower to grow a crop just to give away.
Rebecca Page organizes food collection for the needy.
And that's what Jason has done. And he's planning to do more next year.
Jason has 1,000 acres here, which could go a long way toward eliminating hunger in this neck of North Carolina.
Love is the most wonderful currency that you can give anyone.
You sure you played in the NFL?
Yes.
Because I feel like cuddling you right now.
Don't do that.
Jason may have left the NFL, but apparently holding is still a penalty. Steve Hartman on the road in Lewisburg, North Carolina. They were the bitterest of enemies. For more than a decade, here on the streets of Milwaukee, 2 men shared a mutual disgust. One was a hard-nosed cop named Ray Robakowski.
I wasn't a social worker, I was a police officer. My job was to take care of what needed to be taken care of.
Which is why you didn't like him.
Oh, definitely didn't.
The other, a drug dealer and gangbanger named Jacob Macklin. Jacob got arrested so many times you can watch him grow old in his mugshots. And it was that career thug and this officer who sat down one day over a cup of coffee. The district attorney's office arranged it.
The meeting was to see if cop and criminal could work together and come up with a way to get out of this vicious cycle. But neither guy was buying it. Ray was only here because his boss made him come, and Jacob was tricked into coming, told he had a job interview. So they basically just glared at each other the entire time.
What were you thinking? You're gonna screw up and I'm gonna find you and put you back.
He was dead set on putting you back in jail.
Yeah. I'm glad he changed his mind.
Well, you changed his mind.
Yeah.
Eventually, over the next couple months, Jacob proved to Ray that he wanted to get a job and turn his life around.
He sent me on maybe 14 or 15 interviews in 2 weeks. And one of them was Community Warehouse.
Community Warehouse is a nonprofit home improvement store that hires ex-cons and teaches them job skills.
Which one did they pay for?
Jacob started working here 8 years ago and is now on the management team. To this day, he can't thank Ray enough.
You grateful?
Very. Oh man, very.
He said very, at least half a dozen times.
Very much so.
And as for that very helpful cop, he retired from the police force last year.
But you still wanted to work, you wanted a job.
Yeah.
So who did you turn to for work?
Jacob Macklin. And he laughed. Now he held the cards. But I wanted to be here.
Through Community Warehouse, with his new friend Jacob, Ray has now helped more than a dozen other ex-cons leave their past behind.
Is Ray a different guy than he was when you first met?
Oh, definitely. Oh, did I say that too loud?
Pretty loud.
Jacob, of course, is equally unrecognizable. Today, his only high-speed chases are around swing sets. He's got 4 kids and has vowed the cycle stops with him. All proof that if you can find the trust, sometimes your enemies can be your best allies. Steve Hartman, on the road in Milwaukee. From all four walls, success smiles down on 50-year-old social worker Connie Going.
That was on my mind.
These are just some of the more than 1,000 Tampa Bay area foster kids she has helped match with adoptive parents.
Every child is adoptable. There's a family for every child.
And it's your job to find out who that family is?
Yes.
But when you get a kid like Taylor.
That heavy sigh punctuates a 10-year struggle over this kid. For 10 years, Connie tried to help Taylor get adopted, to no avail.
It was always somewhat my fault.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that, you know, when I was growing up.
Neglected by drug-addicted parents, Taylor and his two sisters entered the foster system in 2003. This footage is from a local news segment aimed at trying to find the siblings and adoptive family. And eventually they were adopted. Someone took all three, but then gave Taylor back. Said he had anger issues.
So how's it going?
Connie eventually found him another family, but they returned him too. Same reason.
You know,
I was just so mad because I thought that they weren't going to keep me. I was just trying to test them.
But they were going to keep you.
Yeah, I know.
when you feel you're not lovable and you're up against, you know, someone's loving you, that's a pretty scary thing.
Throughout the whole process, Connie never gave up believing there was someone out there for Taylor, someone who could see his potential and help him realize it. But after that second family returned him, she stopped looking.
All I could think about was how he was feeling and how he was blaming himself again.
Connie says she felt so bad for Taylor, she got this ache, this physical ache in her stomach. But it was a pain that came with an epiphany. She says she realized right then and there she couldn't be his caseworker anymore.
The next day, she made arrangements to drop him as a client and take him on as a son.
You'd looked all over for somebody to parent him.
And that was me.
Their adoption was finalized last summer. Connie, who's divorced with 2 biological children, welcomed her first boy with open arms. Of course, Taylor still had his anger issues. That mirror in the bedroom didn't break itself. But most of the madness stopped a few months ago, after Taylor told Connie he was running away from home.
And he'd go, "I'm leaving, I hate this." And I'd be like, "I'm not sending you away, Taylor." And he'd look over at me, take his backpack off and go back in.
And then I'm like, yeah, this is where I belong. She knows my worst side, and she still cares about me and still loves me. I put Mom because I couldn't fit Connie.
Sounds like someone's adopted a new attitude. Steve Hartman, on the road, in St. Petersburg, Florida. It was Aurora, Colorado, summer break 2019, when we first met middle school math teacher Finn Lanning and Damien, the student he just couldn't shake.
Do you know how many pencils I went through this year?
Like way more than you should have?
Yeah.
Damien says Mr. Lanning was definitely one of his better teachers.
When like a teacher doesn't bother me over and over again, that's better.
You have a low bar.
Yeah, like leave me alone, I'll leave you alone, I'll get my work done.
He's smart and funny, and he was always a student that stood out. And then one day he just came to me and said, "I'm not coming back to school."
Finn sat him down at that table, right then and there.
And what I found out was his story.
He learned Damien was in foster care, that he had kidney disease. And because social services couldn't find a foster family willing and able to meet his medical needs, Damien had to leave school and move into a hospital. But here's the real kicker. The kid needs a transplant, desperately. And a lot of times you can't get a transplant if you don't have a stable home to return to after surgery.
It hit me like a ton of bricks. I mean, you just can't sit across from somebody that you care about and hear them say something like that and know that you have room to help.
And that's how Finn became a foster parent. He took in Damien, dialysis needs and all, even though prior to that hallway meeting, he'd been a confirmed bachelor who delighted in his childlessness.
I never thought that I could leave school and take one of them with me and still survive, right?
Damien says, "Right back at you, bro."
I was like, yes, I'd get out of the hospital, but I was like, my math teacher, out of all the people.
They got along famously.
Oh, yeah.
Although Damien refused to get too excited. He'd seen fairy tales fall apart before.
Rematch? It's kind of bad thinking about that, but some people actually do that. Like, they'll like just kick you out they'll be happy with you one day, and then just kick you out the next.
I suppose only time will let you trust.
Yeah.
It's been nearly 2 years since we first told this story. Damien was able to get that transplant, and he's now a much healthier, very typical 15-year-old.
Even though it's been absolutely the hardest thing I've ever done, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I'll keep him.
A few months ago, Finn adopted Damien.
Yeah.
Teacher and student, now father and son.
To be accepted feels like a dream come true.
Proof that sometimes fairy tales do end happily ever after. Steve Hartman, CBS News, on the road. By any logical standard, 2 years ago, Eugene Yoon made the craziest decision of his life.
I remember kind of just like looking up at the sky and being like, God, are you sure about this? Because I'm pretty happy right now.
Did it feel like that, like a calling?
It felt like a calling.
What Eugene felt called to do was one really big random act of kindness. He didn't know who he was supposed to help or how. All he knew was that he had to help someone, and it had to be life-altering. And that's when a video came across his Facebook page.
As we first reported in 2015, it was a video of a guy he never met named Arthur Renowitzki. After being mugged, shot, and paralyzed 10 years ago, Arthur vowed that he would walk again someday. And when Eugene heard about that, he called Arthur immediately.
He wasn't going to give up until I was walking again.
To walk again?
To walk again.
And you don't have a medical degree?
I have a film degree.
Which makes you wonder then, how were you going to make him walk again?
This is the part I had no idea.
Eventually, though, he learned about this exoskeleton device that can help some people walk again. Unfortunately, it costs about $80,000. So, to pay for it, Eugene quit his job at a research company in Northern California to hike.
Here we go.
From the California-Mexico border to Canada.
We're going.
Along the way, he posted videos of the adventure and asked people to donate on social media. Until roundabout mid-Washington state,
We did it!
when Eugene learned
We did it!
that he had reached his fundraising goal.
You're gonna walk!
A few weeks later, Arthur did walk, right into the arms of a total stranger who made it all possible.
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you, brother. I call him my brother now. We are brothers. I'm just very thankful to have a friend like him.
Since this story first aired, Eugene has been looking for another total stranger to help with another huge act of kindness. And here he is. Alberto Velasquez lives in poverty with 24 family members under one roof. Eugene met Alberto's family on Skid Row in Los Angeles and then hired Alberto, a skilled seamster, to help start a clothing line called Kin Love Gras. Proceeds will guarantee Alberto and his family a living wage and fund many other kindness projects to come. Eugene may have started with a walk,
Yes!
but is now clearly up and running. Steve Hartman, on the road, in Los Angeles. When 48-year-old Lamont Thomas became an empty nester, it was the end of a parenting legend. Back in 2001, this divorced father of two took on a foster kid named Michael Perez.
He was a good young man, and I just hated to see him in the system.
Eventually, Lamont adopted Michael, who now works as a nurse.
I don't believe that I would be the person that I am today without the morals that he instilled in me, the family, the extended family that I have now.
How extended is that family?
I tell you, if I had enough fingers and toes to count.
Turns out Michael was just the beginning.
That's Marcus.
Over the next 15 years,
Jamie.
Lamont fostered more than 30 kids here in Buffalo, New York,
Herman.
and adopted 5 of them.
JJ.
And again, he did this all on his own and with all of his heart.
Every child that I have had, it was my goal to make a difference in their lives.
You fell in love with these kids, huh?
Yeah, proud of them.
And you retired from fostering?
I did.
Go fishing?
Oh yeah, did plenty of fishing.
Trips?
Love all of that.
Of course, we wouldn't be here today if that was still the case.
Yes, sir.
It really was a shocker. I didn't expect for him to restart and to do it all over again. It's just amazing.
Today, Lamont is back in the game in a big way. Not long ago, he took on 5 siblings, all under the age of 6.
Major, are you eating books?
Lamont, who works as a caterer, says he did have other plans for these years.
I didn't think it was this.
But those plans have now been shattered with mayhem.
When was the last time you went fishing?
It wasn't this summer.
Papa!
Yes.
Lamont decided to foster all 5 after he found out they were going to be permanently split up.
Yes.
And to guarantee they stay a family, last month, he adopted them.
Very good.
You are hereby adopted.
I had to help them. They deserve to be raised together.
Fortunately, Lamont has a great support system through church and friends, and he's not opposed to adding a wife to the mix, should such a saint exist.
Don't lick my mirror, please.
But if not, he's also fine going it alone, for as long as it takes to make the difference.
Have you calculated when the last one's going to be out of high school?
We got a lot of years to go, but it's all right. It's all good.
Lamont Thomas, definitely all good. Steve Hartman, on the road in Buffalo. Dan Peterson was late for his own memorial service. 4 years late. According to his brother Jesse, Dan was ready to die back in 2016.
And some little girl who was 4 years old said, "Hi, old person."
That little giver of life was Norah Wood. Norah met Dan during his darkest days. As we first reported in November of 2016, Dan's wife had just died. He was severely depressed and out grocery shopping for himself here in Augusta, Georgia, when Norah spotted him. As you can see on the security footage, she just randomly reached out to this total stranger and then had the audacity to demand a hug.
I said, "A hug?" I said, "Absolutely."
Norah got her hug and then asked her mom, Tara, to take a picture of her with her new friend.
And his little lip quivered and he was teared up, and it was just sweet.
And I said, "You don't know. This is the first time for quite a while that I've been as happy."
After we first told this story, we thought for sure the love would fade. But Norah and Dan saw each other at least once a week. He was there for her kindergarten graduation.
How about that?
And she was there to stroll his garden.
These are all tomatoes.
And of course, there were countless hugs along the way.
It was the first thing she did when we walked in. It was the last thing she did when we left.
This was Norah's final visit with her sister Marigold the day before Dan died. No story I've ever told has resonated as deeply as this one. Over the years, Dan got thousands of letters from around the world, and now the condolences are pouring in for Norah. And you can't help but wonder why, with so much else going on in the world.
I think it was just humanity at its best, to love and to be loved.
A prescription for happiness that will get us through anything. Steve Hartman, on the road in Augusta, Georgia. What makes Tim's Place restaurant in Albuquerque, New Mexico so special is that it is indeed Tim's Place.
Hello, how are you doing today? Welcome to my place.
Tim Harris was the first restaurant owner in the country with Down syndrome.
This way, guys.
For the last 5 years, he has lived for his business,
Yes, enjoy. Oh, yeah.
which is why his customers were shocked when Tim announced recently that he was closing.
My customers quite a lot into mine. Gonna miss you.
So what drives a man to give up a job he loves more than anything?
Yeah.
A girl he loves more than anything.
I cannot wait.
That blur in the I Love Tim t-shirt is Tiffany Johnson. They met at a Down syndrome convention.
I'm like, oh my God, oh my God.
Did you go up to him and say something?
I was too scared to.
Too scared to?
Because I never met a guy like Tim.
Tiffany says it was the weirdest feeling.
I think I got hit by a love bug.
Eventually, Tim got bit by it too.
Will you be my girlfriend?
You know I will. Yes.
He made her his steady and decided to move to Denver to be closer to her. Tim plans to open a new restaurant there. but it's still going to be hard leaving what he knows. In fact, he cries every time he thinks about it.
I'm just really sad I have to lose this place. I'm pretty sad.
It's incredible to watch. He's deeply grieving about the idea of this transition.
Tim's father, Keith.
While at the same time being as excited as I've ever seen him about the possibility of being with Tiffany.
I'm lucky to have someone that loves me.
Every time I feel sad, my girlfriend makes me a lot happier.
I'm trying not to start crying here.
When you look her in the eye, what do you see?
I see love, I see joy, and I see that I have a future.
Why on earth do we call them disabled?
I just love him.
When, on the important things, they can be so much more able than us.
Love you.
Steve Hartman, on the road in Albuquerque, New Mexico. A lot of kids go to the park to see ducks, but 5-year-old Kylie Brown of Freeport, Maine, takes her duck to see the park. Snowflake comes here to swim around the pond and then returns when called, because Snowflake truly believes that Kylie is his mother. And the duck is not alone in this delusion.
I'm his mom.
But you're not really his mom.
Yep, I'm his mom.
How did you first find out?
That he was a duck?
No, that...
Kylie is unbearably cute. And since I never did recover to ask that question again, let me just tell you that Kylie first noticed Snowflake's attachment the day the Browns brought her home last summer.
Look, he follows her.
For whatever reason, the duck imprinted on Kylie and just had to be by her side, no matter what the hour. When Snowflake refused to stay in the backyard, Kylie's parents, Ashley and Mike, say they had no choice but to give him a diaper and make him a house duck.
He goes everywhere the ducks are allowed and almost everywhere they're not allowed. I don't know if you've ever had a 2-year-old or a 4-year-old that wouldn't leave home without its blankie.
Anxiety.
She would not leave home without her duck. And at that point, nothing's negotiable.
Snowflake goes to the beach in summer and sledding in winter. He's been to soccer practice, gone on sleepovers. He even went trick-or-treating as Olaf, the snowman from Frozen. And over time, because they both sincerely believe they belong together, Snowflake and Kylie have formed a bond like most of us will never know.
It's special, even at 5 years old, that I know that that's the type of person that she's going to be.
She really is going to make a great mom someday, mostly because she already is.
You know, someday he's going to grow up and go to college.
What?
Steve Hartman, on the road in Freeport, Maine. He's faster than a speeding stroller, more adorable than a wet kitten, and able to get a stranger's attention with a single courtesy.
Excuse me?
This is America's latest superhero.
Don't forget to show love.
And the only superhero with the power to feed the homeless.
Now, why do you do that?
You know what, Mr. Steve? It's just the right thing to do.
Is it?
Yes.
You want honey?
By day, Austin Pirine is a mild-mannered 4-year-old from Birmingham, Alabama. But about once a week, he turns into this alter ego.
Would you like a sandwich?
A superhero set on feeding as many homeless people as possible.
Thank you.
What's your superhero name?
President Austin.
President Austin.
President Austin?
President Austin. That's his idea of what the president is supposed to do. I was like, buddy, you have no idea. But hey, I'm going along with it.
TJ says this all began when they were watching a TV show about pandas. It showed a mama panda abandoning a baby. TJ told his son the cub was now homeless.
He said, so what's homeless? I said, well, it's when you don't have a home and sometimes you don't have mom or dad around.
I can tell what the follow-up question is going to be.
Yeah, are people homeless? When I was a 4-year-old, I didn't care about helping people.
I did.
I see.
Once Austin learned some people are homeless and some are even hungry, he launched this caped crusade. Told his mom and dad that he wanted all his allowance and money they would spend on toys
Here you go.
to go toward chicken sandwiches instead.
Oh, thank you, baby.
You're welcome. Don't forget to show love.
After he gives out each sandwich,
Yes?
he gives each person that same bit of advice.
Don't forget to show love.
Don't forget to show love, he tells them. And most do, immediately.
Well, thank you. It warms my heart to see him.
It'll warm anyone's heart. Yeah, he really did, man.
Raymont Boss says this kid gives him hope.
That's where it starts.
Don't forget to show love.
Everyone who meets Austin leaves with hope. Which is why, with any luck, someday President Austin won't be a superhero anymore.
Being the homeless is the highlight of my life.
He'll just be a president.
All right, come on, Austin.
Steve Hartman, on the road, in Birmingham, Alabama. Inside this ice shanty in northern Minnesota,
Oh, here we go.
there's a fish out of water.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
And I'm not talking about the walleye.
Is that a keeper or is that a tosser?
Chris Ingram, dressed in his pea coat and snow boots with the tag still on, appears equally out of place.
Yeah.
Chris works for the Washington Post, and the only reason he's out here is because of an article he wrote in 2015. The article was about a seemingly innocuous U.S. Department of Agriculture study that ranked counties in the country based on scenery and climate. And in that article, Chris concluded, the absolute worst place to live in America is, drum roll please, Red Lake County, Minnesota. And that was it.
Yeah, so I published a story. Yeah. Story goes up at like 9:32 on a Monday. By 9:37, the hate mail started rolling in.
No way.
Like on social media, it was just fast and furious, and it was like nothing I'd ever seen before.
And all of it from the same zip code.
You get some people take it personally.
Yeah, we took offense.
How does this person have a clue?
He obviously didn't know what he was talking about.
Just about everyone in town took a shot at the messenger, except Jason Brumwell, who took a different tack.
I wanted him to come here and see it for himself. Put his money where his mouth is, I guess.
So Jason invited Chris for a visit, and Chris agreed. Flew out here for his first visit in August of 2015.
So I pull up to the courthouse and I get out of the car, and there is a marching band playing.
A marching band?
Yes, a marching band. I was like, wow, there were no pitchforks.
No
I was really happy.
I was gonna say.
No torches, no nothing. Just a bunch of beaming, smiling people. And the weird thing about the trip, when I got back, I couldn't stop thinking about the place.
Which brings us to the most unbelievable part. At the time, Chris and his wife Brianna were not happy living outside D.C.
Oh, you got your gear back.
They hated the long commutes and high cost of living. So last year, they packed up their twin toddlers and moved to, you guessed it, Red Lake County.
But this was the worst place in America.
I believe the phrase was absolute worst place to live in America. Yes, that's what the spreadsheet said, okay? And so coming out here and getting that ground truth, that kind of changed my perspective on it.
And the data didn't factor in the people.
It did not factor in the people, no.
Hey, Chris.
Hey.
Today, Chris still writes for the Post, but he works from home, giving him lots more time to spend with his family and all those internet trolls he now considers friends. They really do love him here, because they know it's easy for some reporters to lob judgments and generalizations, but it takes real integrity to make this kind of correction. Steve Hartman, on the road in Red Lake County, Minnesota.